Alright, guys, today we will be talking about the Champions League round of 16. Yes, today is the matches. But first, let's talk about the playoffs. It was very interesting matchups. First of all, we'll start off with Atalanta versus Club Brugge. We did not expect that. Ninth place versus last place, and the last place wins. What a shocking match result. Let's go up next to PSG versus Brest. And PSG absolutely annihilated them. I don't want to say that word, but it's a word that happened. It's 10-0 on aggregate. That sounds weird to say. I would have said 10-0, but 10-0 sounds weird, but that's how it's said. So that was very shocking as well. Man City versus Real Madrid ended up 3-6 for Man City. Real Madrid winning 6. And Man City having 3, obviously. And then Real Madrid doing Real Madrid, scoring 3 goals in each match. Then after we had PSV versus Juventus, another shocking win for the Dutch. I'm not going to say another because this was the first one for now. So PSV winning against Juventus was absolutely shocking. One team beating an Italian team. Now let's go on to the next. Feyenoord versus AC Milan. That was actually an interesting match. But now that they beat the AC Milan, they're going to be facing another Milan, Inter Milan. Let's see how they do against them. Then after we'll go for Bayern versus Celtic. Obvious win, but it was very close towards the end. But then Alphonso Davies clutched up in the dying seconds of the game. Now we're gonna go to Borussia Dortmund versus Sporting. Annihilation again. Not too big, but still annihilation 3-0. Beating Sporting, which were on great form before Amorim left to join Manchester United. Now let's go Benfica Monaco. Very tight game, but still then Benfica had done a comeback in that second leg, and then they go and face Barcelona, who they've already faced in the group stages, with the big groups. So we'll start off from the left side of the bracket. You guys already seen the images. Let's start on the left side. Let's go Club Brugge versus Aston Villa. Aston Villa obviously lost on the first match against Club Brugge 1-0, but this is going to be their second Champions League meetup. Now let's go on to the next people. We have PSG versus Liverpool. This is not the first time. Last time that Liverpool faced PSG was in 2018-19 season. And the first match was 2-3 for PSG, losing 2-3. Liverpool winning 2-3 against PSG. And then the second match was actually 2-1 for PSG. But as we all know, Liverpool ended up winning the Champions League at the end of that season. So maybe if Liverpool beat them again, maybe they might win the Champions League. We'll never know. Next up, we have Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid. Another meetup. Both times in the league, it was a 1-1 draw. But the last time that they met in the Champions League was the 2016-17 season in the semifinals, where the first match was 3-0 for Real Madrid, then the second one was 1-2 for Real Madrid. But they still proceeded to go on to the finals and win the Champions League. Now let's go. PSV Arsenal. PSV is not their first time meeting Arsenal in the Champions League. They've met each other last year in the group stages, where in the first match, it was a 4-0 win for Arsenal, and then a 1-1 draw in the second match. But they've also faced each other in the group stages of the Europa League in the 2022-23 season, where the first match was 1-0 for Arsenal, and then the second match was 2-0 for PSV. So, will they be able to recreate the same thing again? We'll see later. Now let's go to the other side of the bracket. Let's start off with Barcelona versus Benfica. We already saw that they faced each other in the group stages this year, with Barcelona winning with an epic comeback 5-4. But they were losing 4-2 at the time being, but then they ended up clutching the match 5-4. But they've also faced each other in the UCL in the 2021-22 season, where the first match ended up being 3-0 for Benfica, and then the second match being a 0-0 draw. But Barcelona did end up going to the Europa League that season, and Benfica continued on to the Champions League. Now, for Borussia Dortmund versus Lille, this is their first Champions League meetup, but they've met each other before in the 2021-22 season in the UEFA Cup and the fourth round. And the both the matches were draw. First one was 1-1 draw, and then the second one was a 0-0 draw. And then we'll go up to Bayer Leverkusen versus Bayern Munich. This is their first UCL meetup. And as we know, the last time that they met each other was a 0-0 draw. But then before that, Bayer Leverkusen won in the DFB Pokal 1-0. And then before that, there was also a 1-1 draw in the league. So maybe this match will really bring up excitement. I'll bring up my theory on the big matches later. Let's just finish with Inter Milan versus Feyenoord. This is their first UCL meetup, but like Borussia Dortmund and Lille, they've met each other in the UEFA Cup. Again, ironically, the 2001-2002 season. And they met each other in the semis, where, surprisingly, Feyenoord won 1-0 in the first match, and then the second match was a 2-2 draw. So maybe this will be another interesting matchup, because I just mentioned before that Feyenoord did beat AC Milan. So we'll see about that later. Now let me go up on my theory on the big matches. Big matches are very interesting because they're big teams facing big teams, right? But the thing is, they're not, most of the time it's not filled with goals. It's just filled with football. So people that are just watching for the goals, it's not for them the matches maybe. But it would still be a cool, interesting matches if there's a bunch of goals, like we saw last week, 4-4 draw Atletico Madrid and Barcelona during the Copa del Rey. So maybe it might be like that, or it's a draw and it's just a boring, people that they score luckily, That's what my speculations are, because that's what happened in the league for Real Madrid and Atletico. And Bayern and Bayer Leverkusen, we saw the last match was a 0-0 draw in the league. It's an exciting match, but it's not really filled with goals, but it's filled with pure football. So those are my thoughts on the Champions League. These are the facts that I brought up and told you guys. So tell me, who do you guys think are gonna pass through, and then we'll see who's gonna win the first leg today in the first bracket. And there's also there's 3 on the left bracket, then 1 on the other bracket. Then after tomorrow, there's 1 on the left bracket and then 1 on the right bracket. Let's see who will win today. Put your predictions down on who you think is gonna pass through into the round in the quarterfinals, and subscribe if you can. Goodbye.